Me. Shalom, family. Thank you so much for joining us here at Remnant House, the home of the strong and the very courageous, for our weekly news update. And we like to do these every week for those of you that are joining us perhaps for the first time. We do these once a week. There were people that were completely disconnected from the news. Maybe you were those people that were like, hey, man, I don't listen to this stuff. This stuff drives me crazy. I'm disconnected, right? And unfortunately, things caught you by surprise. Then there were those people that were spending too much time. I mean, getting alerts all the time, constantly getting pinged and notifications, and you can't be serious and all kinds of stuff, right? And that was just destroying your peace. And anxiety was, of course, the ready accompaniment for that kind of thing. And so we came upon this weekly pace that seems to be working. And so this allows us to take what we call the 10,000 foot view, and we like to be informed without being overwhelmed. I mean, it's a really simple concept. A lot of people like it. And it's really just the way we feel. We want to know what's going on, but we don't want to be caught up in it. We don't want to be to the point where we're like biting our nails, right? We want to be able to watch the events of the earth, filter them through the scripture as we are commanded to do, and not let it bother us too much. Because after all, we have other things to do. We have things that we're called to do, things that are our business. And you got to be careful minding too much of the world's business, if you will. And for those of you, again, joining us for the first time, we do, of course, have this wonderful website at remnantwatch.com. Thank you, all of you who have shared the links. You are awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. And I was noticing some of the traffic patterns, and it's doing really well. At the top here, of course, you'll always find our latest broadcast. If you click here at the banner, it'll always take you to the latest weekly news update if you'd like to listen. Otherwise, some people just rather click the links. And of course, here we have the latest news that we're tracking, and you can also search for previous stories. And we keep these survival guides up here. I've had them up here for a couple of years, actually. And they handle everything from fires to tsunami to evacuating your family if you had to do that. And we make that available because we can't, it seems like every week we're talking about a disaster, guys, aren't we? And we're talking about different things going on the earth. And so it makes a lot of wisdom to have resources to be prepared to do the fire drills, to, think ahead of time. And so I encourage all of you who are doing that. Good for you. Good for you being a good example to others and encouraging them to be wise in this day of difficulties. A lot of transition going on, a lot of things happening in the earth right now that are tumultuous. And on the one hand, we keep hearing about peace. But how many know that when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction often follows? And tonight's top story, going right back to remnantwatch.com, we see that Trump is warning Zelensky to accept Putin's terms for ceasefire. He's on a mission to be the peace president, whether they like it or not. I'm the peace president, whether you like it or not, right? And so he is warning Zelensky, hey, you better take the deal. And so another meeting between President Donald Trump and President Vladimir Zelensky has reportedly ended in a fiery shouting match, and this time behind closed doors. Trump was pressuring his Ukrainian counterpart to accept Russia's terms for a ceasefire during an explosive White House meeting on Friday, according to the Financial Times, reportedly telling Zelensky that Russia would destroy Ukraine if he didn't agree. Multiple sources told the outlet that the meeting, where Zelensky was hoping but ultimately failed to secure long-range Tomahawk cruise missiles, quickly descended into a shouting match with cursing all the time. And so, of course, we know that Zelensky was coming with that lottery mentality. If I could just get the tomahawks, then I will beat the big bad the Putin, and I will be bigger than the Putin. So, the tomahawks weren't going to be the saving grace. Yes, they would have done some damage, and yes, they would have then implicated the United States directly in the conflict in a way that I think is difficult to come back from. And but what would have been the outcome? Well, the outcome would most likely have been a much more aggressive response from Russia to utterly destroy what they have been, I think, soft pedaling on to this point. And even though there have been a lot of lives lost, I think they could have used weapons that they did not use. So I do believe that it is wise for people to be looking for pathways to peace. According to sources, the scene resembled that of Zelensky's infamous Oval Office visit in February. And of course, there were not a lot of nice words said after that. So we know that this is going to become a sticky time, but let's hope that those cool heads do prevail and peace is preserved. After all, there are children at stake. And that is what this is what I continue to think about. I try not to get too caught up in the political theater and the political jargon that goes back and forth, which can get adults going back and forth. If you notice that, they use the political jargon and they get the adults going. Well, the children are caught in the middle. So that's who I think about. All right. Call it the grandpa in me. I don't know, but I think about the children, and I want to make sure that they have a chance. Our adults can go argue and sit around a table and debate. And Trump is, of course, celebrating peace in the Middle East. Didn't last long, but at this point, he was celebrating peace in the Middle East after signing the Gaza deal and achieved the impossible, as they hoped. The president celebrates the peace deal as Hamas releases the final 20 hostages and Israel withdraws from the Gaza front lines. And so things look good for a moment there. I mean, President Donald Trump celebrated peace in the Middle East, after all, after he signed the historic peace agreement that ended 2 years of fighting in Gaza. 2 years of fighting. At long last, we have peace in the Middle East. And it's a very simple expression, peace in the Middle East, Trump said during remarks at Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, flanked by dozens of world leaders. We've heard it for many years, but nobody thought it could ever get there. And now we're there. Trump went on, this is the day the people across this region and around the world have been working, striving, hoping, and praying for. With the historic agreement we have just signed, those prayers of millions have finally been answered. Together, we have achieved the impossible. Dun, 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 dun. Well, apparently it was impossible, unfortunately, because as many of you know, things deteriorated quickly. And so, we'll be showing you that here in a moment. But Trump did plan to invite Netanyahu to Gaza summit, and that was aborted because Erdogan, so not all is well in the Middle East, Erdogan said he wouldn't show up. Turkish president threatened to pull out of Sharm el-Sheikh conference unless Israel's prime minister attendance was ruled out. He can't show up. Last-minute plan by Donald Trump to invite Benjamin Netanyahu to a multinational Gaza summit in Egypt had to be aborted after the Turkish president, Recep Erdogan, said he would not land his plane if the invitation stood. The mid-air power struggle started after it was announced that the Israeli prime minister had accepted a late invitation from Trump to the conference, being jointly chaired by the U.S. president and his Egyptian counterpart. And, of course, Netanyahu's presence at the summit had apparently been sealed by Trump in a phone call from Israel on Monday morning with Sisi. And so, but Erdogan reacted so strongly against it that they scrapped that plan. So if you think everything is great in the Middle East, you're mistaken. Unfortunately, things are not so good. And as I read this next report, let's take a quick look at some drone footage over Gaza that will help us see just exactly what the damage was. And Trump says Hamas will be forced to disarm. He says, or, quote, we will disarm them. Listen to that. The U.S. president said it should take place in a reasonable period of time amid questions over the group's status. And Donald Trump said that Hamas will be forced to disarm after questions swirled around the group's status following the signing of a peace deal meant to bring an end to the war in Gaza. And speaking with reporters on Tuesday, Trump said, if they don't disarm, we will disarm them, and it will happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm. Do you understand me? He added, saying it should take place in a reasonable period of time. And as Trump brokered a ceasefire comes into effect in Gaza this week, one of the greatest question marks remains the White House's plan to force Hamas to disarm and leave Gaza if and when the second phase of his 20-point peace deal comes into effect. The president's own remarks have suggested the group may continue to play a limited role in Gaza as revelations surface of a direct meeting between White House envoys and Hamas negotiators in the highest level summit ever held between the two sides. And so we're seeing changes here. Earlier this week, he admitted the group would have a limited role in maintaining order in the short term, raising questions about how the White House may seek to wrangle a peace deal that attempts to restrain Hamas and Israel from resuming the conflict. And of course, what we found out is it didn't hold. As a matter of fact, there's now continued or resumed bombing in southern Gaza as a result of provocation that has now erupted. So we will be reporting more about that as time goes on, but I don't expect this historic peace to hold. And just as we knew, when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction often follows. And if you paying attention, you see the utter destruction that is the case in Gaza at this time. And Turkey wants to replace Iran and encircle Israel. I don't know if you guys saw this report, but I found this to be fascinating. So under the personal and ideological driven Islamic direction of Erdogan, Turkey aspires to actively construct the strategic encirclement of Israel. An Israeli terrorism expert has warned, days after reports emerging stating that the Trump administration is weighing allowing Ankara to purchase F-35 fighter jets. Turkey's willingness to back U.S. President Trump's 20-point truce plan has reportedly increased its chances of acquiring the stealth aircraft, though it is yet to be confirmed. And of course, you can see some of the back and forth that is going on here. So we're going to be watching this with some interest, aren't we, folks? Because Turkey is directly north of Israel. And there are prophecies on Gog and Magog that pertain directly north. So it would be wise for us, of course, to pay attention to that point of the world. And also north of that is some other conflict that we're now paying attention to, right, guys? And of course, we're seeing that Putin could deploy as many as 2 million reservists to a meat grinder war with low change as Trump mulls sending tomahawks to Ukraine. Well, again, we now know that isn't going to happen, right? So they were trying to scare Putin and scare the people that Putin is bringing to the front lines, but it's actually the Ukrainian military that is abandoning their posts in the front lines, and it is not the Russians. So this propaganda isn't quite working. And of course, Russia is well armed, well provided for, and allied well as far as military strength. Again, North Korea has come to their assistance. And of course, you all know that China is part of their alliance. Russia is preparing to deploy 2 million reserve soldiers to the fight in the meat grinder war in Ukraine. So that's why he's telling Vladimir Zelensky, you're not going to win this. He is going to eat you up. Okay? And the Kremlin is planning to change a Russian law that would allow Vladimir Putin to send hundreds of thousands of soldiers to die in the battlefield. Of course, they're very, very negative in this report. So you got to remember where you're reading reports from and what's influencing the writing. And so, of course, the U.S. Sun is certainly influenced a certain direction propaganda-wise. And I do think it's interesting. It's almost like they think like the Russians are going to read their newspaper and go, hey, we shouldn't do this. It goes to show you how committed they are to their propaganda, whether anybody's reading it or not. So there's that. By the way, they're very concerned about the Russian drones, the Iranian Russian drones. I don't know if you guys have heard about that, but now all of a sudden it's the drones are coming. The drones are coming. Prepare for Russian kamikaze drones. Now, for those of you that don't know what a kamikaze is, let me take a moment here. A kamikaze is a term that comes back from World War II. And the Japanese had certain, suicide bombers. There's no other way to put it. And so they would fly their planes directly at the U.S. ships, and they were themselves the weapon. In other words, the pilot was sacrificing his life to literally crash his plane into the ships. And so they were called kamikazes. That's what they were called. Okay, so that's what that word kamikaze is referring to. And so the drones now are performing a similar function in that they're not manned, but they do the same kind of activity where they crash into their target. So they don't have to be that accurate. As long as they can just crash into it and blow up, they can do a lot of damage, as you can get the point there. So now, of course, Europe is very concerned about the kamikaze Russian drones that are going to swarm the skies over Britain. The government is warning as Iranian weapon is unveiled in Parliament. And Poland's foreign minister said a gap in Europe's defenses has been exposed. And I do believe that that's in fact true. Technology has changed, and drone technology is a significant threat. Britain must be prepared for Russia to swarm its skies with deadly Iranian kamikaze drones, MP and officials warn. The stark warning was issued today as a terrified Shahed 136 weapon downed in Ukraine was unveiled in Parliament. And so, of course, this is drawing a lot of attention. These are not your backyard version of drone. These are not your Walmart version of drone, okay? This is a very sophisticated, remotely powered or remotely piloted weapon. And so, of course, when it does its damage, it's considerable. The damaged areas are following a Russian combined attack with drones in Zaporizhia. I'm sorry if I butchered that. I'm sure I did. And it comes just weeks after Russian drones violated Polish airspace, at least according to them, after repeated sightings of unidentified drones in NATO skies. Now, again, guys, we've reported repeatedly that, and we've got more information on drones that cannot be identified. So are they Russians? I don't know. I don't think they know. So there's that. Okay. Relatively cheap, lethal, and widespread, the drone has become Russia's weapon of choice against Ukraine. Actually, it was Ukraine that started using the drones first. If you guys were paying attention, Ukraine is the one that sort of surprised Russia with its drone capability, which sort of evened the playing field a bit. And then that's when Russia brought out theirs. And so we're starting to see some of that military element coming into the United States as well. So again, be sober out there, folks, because we do have enemies all over. Anti-Israel radicals from global Intifada movement join the No Kings protests that are going on around the United States. They are being highly exaggerated. By the way, the numbers of these things are being exaggerated. I'm not sure exactly why, what the intention of these exaggerations are, but we are seeing the radicals kind of combining together. And we knew this was coming because there really wasn't any place else for them to go. And there's an old saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And so when you have a common enemy, it's very Machiavellian, very Little Prince, very Hitlerish, for there to be a coalescing against one common enemy. New York City organizers embedded in the global Intifada to destroy the state of Israel moved Friday to join the controversial No Kings protests. So you're seeing a combination of different forces, again, against what they believe to be their enemy. And so Those of you that are not party to either one of these fights, you need to step away and let these two groups sort of kill each other, because you're not party to either one of them, and you need to step out of that. And so a lot of things they're trying to draw you into, this left-right paradigm, this right-wrong tree of the knowledge of good and evil paradigm, none of it is wise. And we are pursuers of wisdom. So when you're a pursuer of wisdom, you see right through the left-right paradigm, and you go, I'm not with either one of you. Right? And and you kind of move on. And we do have a king. Yahushua HaMashiach is king of the kings. And so kings and kingdoms are a kingdom idea. And so who are they really protesting against? Okay? Who are they really protesting against? And I'm sorry I got this story out of sequence. Hamas is executing collaborators in Gaza as it clings to power. So it's being emboldened by these protests. And this is why these are not really good things to do, and especially getting involved in inner operational things that are going on the ground in that place that we really don't know anything about. And we don't want to fan or fuel either. When there's heat, you don't want to add to heat. You want to cool. You want to be a peacemaker. And Hamas is executing collaborators in Gaza as it's clinging to power. There's horrifying footage that has come out and is showing that Palestinians are being executed by Hamas. And of course, this is being put out on social media. And so a lot of people have already seen this. I'm not going to show that kind of disturbing footage, but you should know that they're far from the good guys, if you will, right? So when they take people out in the middle of the street and put bullets in the back of their head, these are far from the good guys, as you can see. Okay, so we don't have clean hands on either side. You've got a lot of wickedness and wicked thinking going on sort of, you could say both sides, if you will. And so, we, on the one hand, see utter devastation by drone footage that is just wow, right? On the other hand, you would think that if not, you guys need to band together now, right? You need to unite, and instead they're doing this in the middle of the street, right? So, evil is evil, and there's a lot of evil. And a lot of times evil draws you into their inner fights, and neither one of them are ours. Just saying. So be wise in these days, brethren, and be careful the things that you get drawn into. A conflict that is not yours. Remember that we are peacemakers. And of course, right away, we weren't shocked. I don't think anybody was shocked by this. We were hopeful. I mean, let's face it, we were hopeful, but we're not shocked that Israel ramps up its strikes on Gaza, on Hamas terror targets, after what it calls a blatant violation of the ceasefire agreement. So, now we're going to have both sides blaming the other side for breaking the deal. So we go through this thing. I mean, this is something we've been through so many times, right? Israel has ramped up its airstrikes in Gaza, and yes, they are bombing Gaza again on what they call terror targets, after accusing Hamas of carrying out attacks in a bold violation of the Donald Trump brokered peace deal. The Israeli military said Hamas terrorists took part in multiple attacks. They attacked Israel beyond the yellow line buffer zone, calling it a blatant violation of the ceasefire agreement. And Hamas fighters attacked Israeli forces with a rocket-propelled grenade and a sniper fire, as Israeli military spokesman said. Both incidents happened in an Israeli-controlled area east of the yellow line. This is a bold violation of the ceasefire, they added, and the IDF said it was now begun a wave of strikes in the southern Gaza Strip. So much for the peace deal. Apparently, the peace deal is in pieces because it's not working. It's not working. And now, once again, babies have to go to bed to the sound of bombs. Mothers don't know how they're going to feed their children. Aid trucks can't get in. Supplies can't get in. People cannot resume any form of normal life because somebody decided they want to keep a fight going. Can you understand why? Well, frankly, I find the whole thing Ridiculous. After all, what are you going to gain, and how many lives have to be lost in the gaining of whatever it is you think is so important? And I'm speaking about all conflicts. It doesn't matter which one they are. And so it is very, very sad to see some of these things. Meanwhile, the earth itself is responding. And again, we keep an eye on these things because these are signs men don't control. And there's what they're calling a zombie volcano, thought extinct for 710,000 years, and it's showing signs of eruption. And this is something that we're really keeping an eye on because, again, we've been paying attention to the ring of fire, right, guys? And paying attention to the various volcanoes that are really coming alive all over the earth. And here we have one that was dormant for how long? 710,000 years. Okay. Well, a volcano long believed extinct is now showing signs of life. Scientists study Taftan in southeastern Iran detected a summit uplift of 3.5 inches over 10 months from 2003 to 2024, and it has yet to subside. The team said the swelling could be caused by hot fluids and gases accumulating beneath the summit. And of course, what we continue to see is more and more of the earth reacting. Now, remember, the scripture tells us that the earth vomits out its inhabitants. Now, there are definite signs on the earth, throughout the earth, of times and moments where earth itself responded either to cover areas, sometimes mud flood them. I watched an entire hillside come down and cover a village to where that village is now under 20 feet, 30 feet of dirt. So if you're wondering how some of these places ended up 30 feet under dirt, it would be something like that, a massive shift of the earth itself, which the scripture warns us would happen. So we shouldn't be surprised that we see these types of reactions going on in the earth in this hour. But nevertheless, it is fascinating to behold. Meanwhile, we're seeing other signs of things that make us go, what is that? What did you just say? What? You're hurting my brain right now. There's a whole lot of MAGA people with red hats going on. What now? This is coming out of the Jerusalem Post, guys. I wasn't sure if this was satire or if this is truly how they feel. But I didn't print this. I didn't write this. But I want you to notice what it says. President Trump in the Jerusalem Post is called the Alexander the Great of our time, and Alexander saved the Jews. So President Trump, are you listening, is a savior of Israel. A savior of Israel. I'm not even sure what more I need to say. Alexander is the only name of a non-Jewish origin which has been accepted by the Jews. Alexander defeated the Persians, nowadays Iran, and conquered Judea. He treated Judaism and Jewish sages with great respect. And of course, now they are hearkening Mr. Trump to Alexander the Great. He is now Alexander the Great. We're going to sit back and let that one percolate for a moment, folks. Signing peace deals, making covenant with many, and being called Alexander the Great by the Jerusalem Post. Very interesting. Is anything? In other news, moving on to other parts of the world. All right. Moving on to other parts of the world. Did you know that Taiwan has told the United States, posh, 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 on their offer for a 50-50 deal on chip production? Now, this is very interesting because, as you know, the United States has been at great expense defending Taiwan against Chinese, what it considers to be Chinese aggression, right? And that China or Taiwan has been maintaining its independence from China in large degree to large degree due to the fact that it's in partnership with the United States. So I found this headline to be interesting because maybe that will change. Maybe the United States will go, well, if you're not willing to partner with us, then maybe we'll just let the Chinese take you over. So Taiwan is rejecting a U.S. proposal for a 50-50 chip production and says trade talks focus on tariffs. Ooh, well, that's probably going to go a certain kind of way. Okay. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick had proposed an interview with Taiwan made of 50% of the chips U.S. needs locally. Taiwan's top negotiator said the proposal was not discussed in trade talks with the U.S., trying, of course, to tamp it down, right? Taiwan will not accept Washington's proposal to locally manufacture half the chips it currently supplies to the U.S., the island's top trade negotiator said. Of course, that would devastate their labor market, because if you suddenly bring that manufacturing here to the United States, that would diminish their workload and workforce there. So speaking to reporters, Sheng Li Xiong, also the country's vice premier, said on Wednesday that the proposal for a 50-50 split in semiconductor production was not even discussed as she returned from trade talks in the U.S., according to Taiwan's central news agency. Cheng said the talks were focused on lowering tariff rates, securing exemptions from tariff stacking, additional duties, and reducing levies on Taiwanese exports. Well, folks, I can tell you right now that if you think they're going to just walk away and go, okay, never mind, okay, fine, you're wrong. The United States has Taiwan in a particular kind of barrel, if you want to look at it that way. And so it is not likely that this is the last conversation they're going to have about that 50-50 split. Okay. And Taiwan may just have to come to grips with the reality that America is not asking. Watch. They're basically telling them that if you're going to do business with us, this is the way we're going to do business. America is not acting like a negotiator. They're shot calling. And I think they're doing it while there's still strength there to do that. We'll see if that lasts. It looks to me like the world powers and the nations of the world are really tired of one nation shot calling. So we're going to see how well that continues. But it does look like Taiwan, who, frankly, you would think is pretty beholden to the United States, did not shrug, did not bat an eye to tell them, nope, we're not interested in that. So this ought to be very interesting indeed. Things are changing in the Western Hemisphere as we have more threat of conflict right here in our hemisphere, as threats against the Venezuelan dictator Maduro have increased to the extent that now I understand he is hiding in his bunker. Now, if you remember, there was the Doomsday plane. Do you guys remember that? We talked about that several weeks ago. The Doomsday plane that was flying over Texas and that was finally seen. Well, now there's a different plane. The U.S. Air Force is a nuclear-ready bomber has been spotted over Texas on secret mission. So this has got to have everyone a little bit spooked. Who knows where these things go? U.S. Air Force nuclear-capable B-52H Stratofortress has been spotted flying over Texas, raising questions about the purpose of the high-profile flight. I think they want this out there for the Venezuelan regime and others to know that the U.S. is prepared to do some serious fighting. Flight tracking data shows the long-range subsonic strategic bomber departed from Shreveport, Louisiana on Tuesday and soared to Arkansas and Oklahoma and is now flying over Texas. And the U.S. Air Force describes the aircraft as a long-range heavy bomber that can perform a variety of missions. And oh boy, howdy, can it even? Because that thing makes some serious parking lots. So if that's going down to Venezuela, they have reason to be hiding in their bunkers, right? So that's a big bomb dropper. And so this is a very interesting time that we're watching. And I tell you, folks, one of the things that I think is really pertinent about this time period is the rumor of war. So you don't just have the war, you have the rumor of war that I think is just as, sort of devastating, if you will, that we have to be careful about. Here's that story about the Doomsday plane. I'll bring that up. This was on Remnant Watch several weeks ago. I don't remember exactly which week, but I just ran a quick search, and sure enough, there's that rare naked Doomsday plane. That was just, there it is, Friday, September 19th. So it was about that time that we made a comment about the Doomsday plane. Okay. And so now we're seeing, again, over Texas. So the southern border of the United States. And you kind of have to wonder, are they letting certain regimes know? Trump recently made a comment about the Colombian president as well. So he's picking a fight with all kinds of people, Mr. I Want a Peace Prize. He wants a peace prize from some people, and he's picking fights with other people. Obviously, that's a bit of a challenging situation for Mr. Trump, but I digress. I love your comments, folks. We have to keep a little levity going here, because some of this stuff gets very serious and can be very daunting, especially in these difficult days. So we have to kind of try to lighten it up a little bit. But that is an interesting development, and let's hope again we don't start making parking lots in the southern South America. Let's hope we don't have to go to war there. Changing over to, again, looking at the earth. And again, folks, this is, again, right on the scripture. So when the scripture talks about the earth reacting to its inhabitants, these are the kinds of things we would expect to see, things that make us go, uh-oh. So did you know there's a mystery heat wave that's warming the Pacific Ocean to new records? Yep. It's a very mysterious thing, and they are not sure where it's coming from. The waters of the North Pacific have had their warmest summer on record. And this is what I think caused that superstorm that hit Alaska. I don't know if you guys heard about that. According to the BBC analysis, a mysterious marine heat wave that has confounded climate scientists. Sea surface temperatures between July and September were more than 0.25 centigrade above the previous high of 2022, a big increase across an area roughly 10 times the size of the Mediterranean, which is, by the way, killing coral reef, folks. And so while climate change is known to make maritime heat waves more likely, scientists are struggling to explain why the North Pacific has been so hot for so long. So my suspicion, and I think the suspicion of others, is that you have underground volcanic activity, or underwater, I should say, volcanic activity that is causing some of that heating. I can't prove it because I don't go swimming under there, but I think that's my educated guess. What do you guys think? And so that would lend to this. I mean, it kind of goes together, and we just see the circumstantial evidence. We can look at it, but it's interesting that the Earth's crust just happens to be breaking apart off the Pacific Northwest. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know, but it's sure awfully coincidental, don't you think? I think so. So scientists have captured an unprecedented glimpse of subduction zone in the act of dying, where the Juan de Fuca and Explorer plates are breaking apart beneath North America off the coast of Vancouver Island using high-resolution seismic imaging. Our researchers found the Cascadia subduction zone is unraveling piece by piece. So could this be why there's heat going on in the North Pacific? I don't know, but it sure looks like it, right? A subduction zone near Cascadia is unraveling piece by piece. The process offers a rare glimpse in how tectonic plates die and form new geological boundaries. And with unprecedented clarity, researchers have captured a rare geological event. So they're looking at this, and of course, you're seeing the way in which plates go one under the other. And basically, it is just off Vancouver Island, and this is just off of course, the northern part of the United States and southern part of Canada is where this area sort of comes in, and it goes down, and from there connects to other areas that are of concern that we talked about last week in off the coast of California. And so what we talked about last week, and it was right after our broadcast, that there was yet another earthquake and more concern about that connecting with the San Andreas or some of the other faults, right? So this could produce some mega quakes, some massive, massive movements. And that is something that we know from the scripture, that there are things that portend. And again, something that could have happened already past year, but it can repeat because men do the same things, so the same results occur. All right. So that's why a lot of scriptures you will see repeated. You will see things that already occurred and already fulfilled. And guess what? They're being fulfilled again because it's the doom of man that they forget. Okay. So lots of things repeat themselves. And one thing that we're seeing right now, a lot of attention to, and this is why it's very concerning for countries to be preparing to go to war with another country over what they believe to be a airspace violation from drones, when they may not be anyone, they don't know whose drones they are. And a man who is now being touted, of course, as Trump's right-hand man, Mr. Marco Rubio, he went on the record and said that UFOs are flying over U.S. nuclear bases. Trump's right-hand man now, folks, this is Marco Rubio saying, and he admits that in a bombshell new doc. Okay, and so this just came out. And the U.S. Secretary of State made the bombshell claim that the trailer for the new highly anticipated documentary, The Age of Disclosure, and they've been declassifying imagery so that they can put it out to the public. And this is, of course, technology that they do not control. And I find that fascinating. Who else finds that about interesting? Okay, interesting because I do. I don't know about you, but I find that very interesting. And ultimately, what we're looking at is the culmination of the age. Now, in our discussion board, I posted a graphic of a word that I got in 2014. I highly recommend you look at that because these things were all predicted. All of them were predicted. And we were told in advance that these things would come to pass and that we would see them. So there are some people that are not that surprised by what is manifesting in this hour. But nevertheless, it is a bit of a jolting time period to be alive because there's a lot of things that you're going, wait, what? You mean those are real? You mean you really don't know what those are? No, they don't. They don't know what everything is. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but there was a United Airlines pilot that recently was seriously injured. Here's the story here. A United Airlines pilot is injured when a mysterious object smashes windshield, and look how high he was. So he's at 36,000 feet and something's hitting you. How many know there ain't supposed to be much going on at 36,000 feet, folks? Okay. And so a United Airlines pilot was injured and forced to make an emergency landing after a mystery object smashed the windshield of the Boeing 737 at 36,000 feet. Photos circulating online reportedly show the pilot's arm bleeding and bruised, with injuries consistent with glass cuts, and broken glass also covered the dashboard and cockpit. Other photos show what appear to be scorch marks at the point of impact. So, guy was definitely hurt by something at 35,000 feet. All right. So, for you to think that they all have it under control, you're wrong. They absolutely do not. And they just wanted to give off that feeling, that, oh, so you're good feeling. Come on. Everything's awesome. Jump on the plane. Let's go. And how many know that we're all looking at planes lately, like the last few years, man? It's been a real challenging time period for the airline industry. If you go over to Remnant Watch and just type in airlines and see how many stories we've done over the last few years just on airlines. So the scripture told us in the book of Daniel that in the last days, men would go to and fro quickly. So we're not actually shocked by that as well. And another thing that we noticed this week, how many were affected today? I know we were. We were working in the middle of a project this afternoon, and all of a sudden, we saw there was a massive interference with the work we were doing, and so it turns out that there was they're calling it a global internet meltdown. Meltdown. Okay, isn't that interesting? A meltdown. And half the internet goes down after Amazon cloud outage, leaving millions unable to use Ring, Alexa, and banking apps, as experts warn. We can't rule out a cyber attack. No, it's just, typical. You put too many eggs in one basket. A major outage has affected half the internet, with millions of people left unable to access sites across Snapchat, Fortnite, and Duolingo, as well as several banking apps. And of course, that's because AWS Services is a backbone, a underbelly service that supports a lot of other products for storage and for other purposes. Amazon said the underlying issue has been fully mitigated, adding that most operations are successfully succeeding normally now. And that's the nature of the internet. It does find new routing, but nevertheless, this caused major problems. So much for running the world, right? However, the outage continues to wreak havoc across the globe, with millions of customers still experiencing issues accessing their favorite sites. So the problem lies with Amazon Web Services, a cloud computing service that powers much of the infrastructure behind many websites. Now, we don't use AWS, but I know a lot of companies do. And this is one of the reasons why we don't, is because wherever there's a nexus like that, well, then you're going to be affected by that nexus. The outage has also affected popular Amazon services, including Amazon.com, Amazon Alexa, Ring, and Amazon Prime Video. So I'm sorry about your Prime Video going a little slow, guys. But the real thing is medical services, security services. These are the real threats. In high crime areas, if all of a sudden Ring cameras and security devices are no longer working, this signals the criminal element that they have a window. And so this is a dangerous thing. I do believe there are some that actually watch for outages. And so that's very, very dangerous to not have backup plans, especially for security and for other things. So again, in our increasingly interconnected and internet dependent world, these kinds of things are now news because they will affect you whether you like it or not. And sometimes you're not, but other things that you depend on are, and so they're going to affect you. So even though we aren't involved in that, it still affected us because some services that we work with were affected. So it rippled nevertheless. Interesting how these things continue to ripple. Speaking of rippling, we're continuing to see more and more information about new strains. So if some of you were worried about whether or not they could bring back masks and whether or not we could recover the mask wearing mandates of the great 2019 to 2022 time period, well, California has not given up hope. California is battling hard and it's exposing every possible strain they can find to try to get us put masks on. New strain of Mpox virus that is more severe and easily spread, found in major U.S. city. 2 people in California have been infected with a potentially deadlier strain of Mpox acquired within the U.S. The Los Angeles County Department of Health this week confirmed 2 unidentified residents. We're not going to tell you who they are. They're unidentified. They're kind of like a UFO. So they're like a UFO. They're a USO, an unidentified sick person, a USP, unidentified sick person. They're residents in the country, and they tested positive for for whatever this is. Okay. And it supposedly kills 1 in 10 people that it infects. Okay. And again, they're always trying to sow fear into the invisible boogeyman. And when you learn what a virus actually is, as soon as they call it that, you already know what you're dealing with. So I really strongly recommend that you run a little quick search on our channel on the word virus, watch that video, and then you'll see why some things we take less seriously than other things. And that's about all I'll tell you about that. Here's a really crazy story. Did you guys see this? This is nutso. And this is the kind of stuff that the demons do when they are in people. So if you're thinking that they're going to, fall down on the ground and writhe, well, if they're being delivered, yes, you may see that. But otherwise, the kind of behavior that you're going to see the demonic do is this. This is a demon, a devil that's taken over a person and was so bloodthirsty. Listen carefully to what I'm telling you. Was so bloodthirsty, couldn't even get out of the store. Watch this. Woman buys knives and then stabs another woman for taking too long at the checkout line, police say. I want you to just process what you just read. Okay, a dispute in a checkout line at a Marshall store in New Jersey led to a violent attack, according to authorities. And Kearney police say 25-year-old Amber Thompson was angered Saturday while shopping at a Marshall. So she's shopping on Shabbat. While shopping at a Marshall store on Kearney, she allegedly decided another customer was taking too long in the checkout line and threatened to harm her once they got outside. The victim and her family left the store and went to their vehicle in the parking lot. Police said Thompson bought a set of knives, took one of them out of the packaging, and chased the victim down and stabbed her several times. The victim was rushed to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Okay, so what's going on here? This person just got mad, Peter. I want you to think about this for a minute, okay, guys? Person just got mad. Person just got angry. Who goes and buys a package of knives, breaks one out of the package, takes it out, follows the person, chases them down, and stabs them? When you're already through the line, like the incident is over. Who does this? Well, demons do, because what they're after is a blood sacrifice. A blood sacrifice. So two things happen here. One, a person went to the hospital having given blood at the scene. And two, the person who committed the crime is now going to jail. So you got two people affected by this momentary crazy that occurred. That's a demon. Those are devils. That's what they do. This is why you have people will come to and they'll go, oh my gosh, and they've been in fights or, even with people they love, and they'll do them harm, and then they'll realize, oh my goodness, what did I do? That's why it's very important that by the Ruach you maintain self-control. Okay? So it's very important that you don't let yourself fall victim to these things. And they're everywhere, including in your computers. How many know that Sam Altman says ChatGPT will soon have sexting capabilities? So it wasn't bad enough that they were already gaslighting people with a weaponized narcissism. I'm not even kidding, folks. This stuff is really bad, okay? And it should be shut down in terms of talking to people. But instead, nope, it's going to get erotic. OpenAI will bring erotica to ChatGPT once it rolls out age verification in December. So it's going to integrate its ID connecting technology, and it's going to use erotica as the means by which people will then have to get on their ID system. It's all about ID. It's all about identity. And OpenAI will soon allow erotica for ChatGPT users who verify their age on the platform. And in the next post on Tuesday, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman said the company will add support for mature conversations when it launches age gating in December. So they're using one to get the other done. And this is all about identity. This is in part due to this as well. This is also opening a floodgate, because what you don't understand is the way in which this technology is already affecting human psyche. And now they're going into, again, areas that are, highly sensitive, if you will. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? We're already seeing demonic manifestations and crazy reactions to human interactions. And I doubt we're going to see that improve with Sam Altman and ChatGPT. So we're already seeing people who don't know how to control themselves, behaving in ways that are beyond anything we've ever seen before. Here's another story that was really, really devastating. How about this one? A school employee dies after being kicked in the chest by a 14-year-old. A 14-year-old. Amy Morrell, 53, worked at a school for students who may have had learning disabilities as well as the medical fragility. And she was literally kicked in the chest by a 14-year-old because she was trying to keep the person from doing themselves harm. So she put herself at harm. and as a result was kicked and killed. She died at the hospital from the injury sustained. So this is the reality, and that's why we have to be sober and vigilant. In other news, in China, we have to continue to pray for the underground remnant in China. Guys, don't forget to pray for people in persecution. Excuse me. Part of what we're keeping an eye on, part of the reason why we do this is because of this. In 1999, the word that I was given in 40 cities I went to was prepare for the coming persecution, right? Well, guess what, folks, in China, and this is for you out there who are in the Far East, detains dozens of underground church pastors in crackdowns. And usually these are they who are coming away from institutional lies, institutional controls, institutional religious controls, right? So the detentions which come in renewed China-U.S. tensions over trade drew condemnation from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Okay, and so in Beijing, police in China detained dozens of pastors of one of its largest underground churches over the weekend. A church spokesman and relatives said in the biggest crackdown on Christians since 2018. So they hadn't done much. They've been sort of cleaning up their reputation. And then all of a sudden, here we go again. The detentions, which come amid renewed China-U.S. tensions after Beijing dramatically expanded rare earth export controls last week, drew condemnation from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who called on Sunday for the pastor's immediate release. And of course, there's going to be continued news on this kind of stuff. So keep an eye on it. But nevertheless, know that that is also a factor we need to keep an eye on. And so one of the things that we're seeing in the United States due to the backlash from the Charlie Kirk murder is a number of people now going back to church, which many people in the remnant may think, oh no, there's things there that need to be dealt with too. Don't worry about it. The Ruach knows what he's doing. And by the way, there are prophetic voices that are coming out in this, and one of them predicted Trump would be assassinated, or there would be an attempted assassination. And his next prophecy strikes at the heart of America if it comes true. And so this is one that is certainly worth listening to. A Christian pastor who accurately foresaw the assassination attempt on Donald Trump has issued a chilling new warning for the U.S. And he claims, of course, that he has seen a vision. And so in this vision, he is talking about a 10.0 earthquake. Recommend you go read the story over in Remnant Watch. We're running out of time here tonight, guys. But go take a look at that. And that was one of the 10 things that I was given in April 1st, 2014. 9 of the 10 things have already come to pass or are in the process of manifesting, including dramatic UFO footage. Yes, he had me write that down in 2014 that we would see that. But the last sign that we've been waiting for is a 10.0 earthquake. So when I saw this prophecy that he saw a 10.0 earthquake, I went, wow, okay, that's interesting. So maybe it is being given to warn those who will be impacted. And this is in the east of the Mississippi area, and it would affect, of course, the middle part of the eastern part of the United States. So again, it's going to affect the whole world, I would think. At 10.0, you'd feel everywhere. So this is something that we are going to be keeping an eye out for. So that was interesting, guys, that we may be coming into a very highly seismic time period. I foresee major change and mass migration of people. That's what I keep getting. Here's something on that ID stuff, guys. UK Labour Party is pushing for digital ID prompts, and their concern, of course, is this is a step toward mass surveillance. No, it is mass surveillance. It's not a step toward it. That's exactly what that is. That's exactly what that is. It's a straight naked attempt at actual surveillance, straight up telling you we want to surveil. So that's what your technology is doing. That's what they're trying desperately to hide under helpfulness, is actually surveillance. And I think something that is a really interesting side note that we now know about, I'm going to leave you guys with this as we close for tonight. I think they're doing this sort of on purpose, maybe just to create fear. So don't let it bother you. But nevertheless, this is being reported by Politico that the top nuclear weapons agency are going to furlough most of their staff amidst the shutdown. And House Republicans pointed to the staff reductions as a national security consequence of the shutdown, pressing Senate Democrats to yield and to vote to reopen the government. But basically, they're planning to furlough the vast majority of civilian staff at a key agency that helps manage the nation's nuclear weapons stockpile, according to a notice obtained by Politico. What could possibly go wrong? Well, that's tonight's broadcast. I pray this broadcast has been a barakah, a blessing to all of you, to encourage you in your walk one with another. Remember the words of our Messiah that we are to love and, well, respect one another. Amen. Even as we love ourselves. And so let's remember to do that. Let's remember to be kind-hearted one to another, especially those that are of the household of faith. Thanks again for joining us. Shalom.